So first of all, a little bit about me and my use of social media and the news. So when I was younger, a teenager in around 2007 or so, that's when I really started getting into all these platforms. First of all, there was Bebo, there was MySpace, and then Facebook came along in 2007. So I probably started using it around 2004, 2005, the likes of Bebo and MySpace. And then I didn't have a phone, so I just go on the computer and use it each night. And I find I quite enjoy those platforms that I get connect with people at school, and it's quite a good network. As I got towards the age of 21, I think I got an iPhone, and this was around 2012. And that's when I started to use social media more and more on my phone. And actually I found myself writing statuses, writing comments and waiting for people to like them as I would with my text messages. So really that's when I started to understand that I was using an external source of validation for liking myself a bit. And we all do it, it's quite common. Now, the news. The news is something I've not really ever watched that much because I'm really not concerned with so many events. Obviously, if there's a major disaster or something in the world, I want to know about it like anyone would. They want to know what the news is or anything tragic. But generally, things on the news I've never been concerned with because I can't really do much about. So I'm not interested in who's slagging who off, basically. It's nothing to do with me, and I allow myself to focus on my goals. But the social media is something where I found myself scrolling through other people's stories when it's not necessarily something I'm connected with, but I found this has wasted so much time. But by reducing it, as well as the news that I don't use that much anyway, I found there's been such more productivity in my life and actually an improvement in mental health. Now, on to some benefits from reducing social media or the news. Now, as I've said, they're not all bad. Social media can be a great platform to connect with new people, to speak to like-minded people, to help your business progress, such as Facebook advertising, or really getting an understanding of some good content out there if it's in a similar field to you, or really soaking up any kind of self-improvement that myself I've done quite a lot of. So it can be really useful for that, or even connecting with old friends. It's so much easier these days, so it's not all bad. And the news, it can really give you some valuable information once in a while, and there are things you need to know. So again, they're not all bad, but I'm just going to go through some benefits you can gain from reducing social media and the news. You have more time to be productive. So for me, I turn off all my notifications on my phone in the morning. I won't look at social media, I won't look at my texts or my WhatsApp. Obviously, there's normal text and WhatsApp. If someone really wants to get hold of me, they'll ring me, and that's never been the case. Otherwise, when it gets to midday, I'll look at all my social media, my texts. But by doing that, in the morning, I'm allowed to get up, do my morning routine, work on my goal, which is typically writing a certain word count, and then go into my day job and focus on what I need to do for the morning, because that's when I find I'm generally more productive anyway. But if I've got social media, I've got the news hitting me, if I've got text messages hitting me before midday, that's going to significantly reduce my productivity. So by reducing your social media and the news, that's going to help your productivity. Benefit number 2, you're going to compare yourself less to others than you would. Now, this is more of a mental health benefit, because when we see all this social media, when we see the news, we see all these successful people, we don't necessarily always see their struggles either. But when we see all these people, these like top models, whether it's a guy with an 8-pack or a woman with a so-called amazing body for the beach or whatever, when we're looking at that online, on photos on Instagram, for example, we're going to feel down. It's going to affect us. And by reducing social media, or even the news, as there's stories on about people with successful stories, and it's not just models I'm on about, it could be a top speaker, a top writer, a top sportsman doing really well. You might look at them and think, wow, I've got a long way to go. Or it doesn't even have to be someone famous. It could be your friends or family who you look at and think, oh, they're doing really well, I need to do a bit better. So in the past I've done it. I've seen friends from the past getting engaged, having kids. And I thought, well, I'm single, I'm not even in a relationship. So naturally I'm thinking, and I've not necessarily wanted to be in a relationship at that time when I've looked at it. But when I see like a friend in the past in a relationship, you think, wow, I should be doing different. But by reducing your social media and the news, you're going to start comparing yourself less to others than you would do if you're constantly on your phone, seeing what's happening on Facebook stories, on Instagram stories, or on LinkedIn, or any platform, or looking at the news. Benefit number 3, you aren't relying on an external source to be happy. Your happiness should be from yourself. So you can only take the action, you can only do what you can do, you can only work on your goals. When you work on yourself, that is the best thing you can do for yourself and everyone else, because when you do that, you inspire others to do the same. But if we're on too much social media, we can be writing statuses to try and entertain other people. When we get that like or we get that comment, we're going to feel good, and then we start to get the addiction to, I need to get validation from others. So by focusing on yourself and spending less time on social media, and this is probably more social media than the news, then you're going to feel more in control of your own happiness than trying to get external sources to give you that happiness. Benefit number 4. This links to the last point a little bit, but when you reduce social media or the news, you're going to stop worrying about things outside your circle of influence and stop worrying about things you can't control as much. So for example, you see all these bad things happening, or you see a certain person doing this and this, you're going to be worried about how it might affect you. And this is where things like anxiety can creep in. When you reduce the amount of social media rubbish that's coming in, not all social media is rubbish, but just generally when rubbish is coming into you, or if it's rubbish on the news that doesn't really concern you, you're going to have more and more information to be worried about. Now, if you focus on information such as reading books, or working on your goals, or going out on the internet and finding relevant information for you to support you, that's great, that's going to help you. And that's what you need to take action on. Remember, always take action, as I'm always saying. But when you're looking at too much social media or the news, you're going to start to worry about things that are really outside your control. And it's easier said than done, but by focusing on things that are outside your control, it's going to affect your mental health, and you don't want to be doing as much as that. But if you do reduce your social media hours, you do reduce the amount of news you're watching, then you're going to benefit from that. And the final benefit I'm going to talk through is you align yourself more with your goals by reducing social media or the news. So this again overlaps with a couple of the other benefits I've talked about. But when you spend time working yourself, focusing on what you want, you can really understand your goals and your why. So let's take an example. You go onto social media and you see some billionaires made it. He's got a nice house, he's got a nice car. You think, wow, that looks great. And I want to do something to get more money. But that person's why from your why may be completely different. You might just think, oh, great, I'll get a load of money and I'll be successful. Whilst their why might be they really wanted to create a business to affect people's lives, and that's what they've got on the side. But when you focus on your true why, your true goals, that's going to be a lot more beneficial for you and other people to follow. Because when you follow and identify what you really, really want to do, rather than seeing what all these other people are doing and thinking that's what you're meant to do, it's going to be so much more beneficial. So make sure you reduce social media and the news so you can really focus on your own goals. So far I've talked about some of the benefits of reducing social media and the news. Now I'm going to give you a few little tips on this. So you've probably picked up one already that I've been talking about, and that's actually to reduce the amount of hours you're using social media or the news. So for me, I mentioned that I have my phone on notifications muted. Most of the time I've fallen off this habit a little bit before, but I usually get back on it. But if you hide notifications on your phone, if you don't look at social media for the whole morning until 12 o'clock, that can be really beneficial to help you focus on what you need to do in the morning. So for example, I'm filming this video right now. I've made sure I've not really looked at any social media this morning so that I don't get distracted or waste too much time. But just cutting out social media or looking at the news altogether, if you've had like a lifetime or many years of doing that, it's going to be hard. And realistically, if you're watching this video and thinking, oh, I'm just going to stop altogether, that's probably not going to happen. So what you need to do is just reduce your social media and news usage at certain times in the day. And actually, you still probably need to use it anyway. You want to connect with people. You want to look at some useful content that is out there. But if you allow only certain times in the day for that, that's going to work in both ways, where you're going to get the good sides of social media and the news, but not waste so many hours on it, or when you could be productive in those times. So perhaps you could put a couple of hours slot over lunch to have a look at your social media, and then a couple of hours in the evening where you allow yourself to look at social media whilst doing other tasks such as making dinner. But I would recommend, when you really need to be productive, so whether you work better in the morning or the evening, you do not allow social media time or looking at the news in those times, and you turn off notifications. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is either turn off your phone where possible or put it on airplane mode. So if you do need your phone just to make notes, because I use my phone to make notes, because now and then I might be going for a nice walk and I think of an idea for a book, and usually that's when inspiration hits me, when I'm sort of out there relaxed rather than trying to focus too much on trying to find an answer. It'll come naturally to me, so that's why I use the notes function on my phone. But if you have your phone on airplane mode, it's going to help you to reduce using social media or looking at the news that little bit more. So that's tip number 2. And my final tip number 3, is delete accounts on your phone or applications that you really don't need. So if you really are getting distracted by an application that is not really giving that much value, but you're finding you're getting a bit addicted to it, then delete it, get rid of it. If you have too many social media apps, you're going to be naturally flicking from one to the other each time you're on your phone. But by reducing or deleting apps you don't need, that's really going to help. So, to sum up what we talked about today, we've talked about social media and the news, and the fact that they can be good and give you some valuable content out there. They can also be a big time waster, and they can affect your mental health by comparing yourself to others or not aligning yourself to what you really want in this world. Now, there can be so many benefits from reducing them, such as focusing on your goals, or being happier with yourself and not comparing yourself to others, and getting more time back to work on what you want to do. So to do that, you can allocate only certain times to social media or news use, or you can put your phone on airplane mode, or you can delete the applications. So today's question is, how much time do you think you spend wasting your time on social media or the news? And if you could get some of that time back, what would you do with it? So I hope today's video's been of value to you. Just a quick reference of my sources as usual. So my website is johnnypardo.com, where you can find my short stories and blogs and more information about me. You can also find my books on Amazon, just type in Johnny Pardo. And I'm on social media, so it's at Johnny Pardo Author on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm now on LinkedIn. Just type in Johnny Pardo into LinkedIn. Have a great time, guys, this week, and don't waste too much time on social media, and we'll speak soon.